Welcome back. This is lesson number 8 in our music theory video series tutorial. We're going to learn about dotted notes today, a very important step because it is the stepping stone into our counting and rhythm lessons, which is coming up very, very soon. So let's get right to it. I'm going to go 2 whole notes, lesson number 8, 4 beats, 4 beats, and we're set. Now, dotted notes are really simple because when we first learned in lesson number 1, we had a whole note, a half note, and we had a quarter note. And let me try to fill this in as best as I can. Just imagine it being fully filled in. And we have 4 beats for a whole note, we have 2 beats for a half note, and we have 1 beat for a quarter note. Again, very important note, it is usually our fallback for the size of everything. But what about number 3? We're missing number 3 in between 2 and 4. Now really, if we wanted to, we could do this because this is technically 3 beats. But it's a bit more of a cumbersome way to draw 3 beats, where I tie them together. We haven't actually mentioned ties, so there's a quick hint for a future video as well. But there is a better way to show 3 beats, and it is probably a very common way depending on your music, especially when you're first starting out. So let's take, as an example, let's take a half note. And let's say I cut this half note in half. I slice it in 2 right down the middle. Well, what do I get? I end up with 2 quarter notes. Why? Because this half note is worth 2 beats, and the quarter notes are each worth 1, which means, just simple math, 1 plus 1 is 2, or 2 cut in half is 2 separate ones. Really basic stuff. But this is where a special symbol comes in. So I have a half note, and now I'm going to add a dot beside it. This dot will always be to the right of the note. It'll be right beside it to the right of the note. It won't be above, it won't be below, because those are different things entirely. So it will always be right to the right of the note. Now what this dot means is this dot is, let me just do a little bit of a bubble here because it's kind of like a thought. This dot takes whatever note it's attached to, so it's attached to the half note here. It takes that note, and like I showed just 10 seconds ago, it cuts it in half, which gives us the 2 quarter notes. Just imagine them being filled in. I repeat that a lot because I want to make sure that you can see that. So it takes 2 quarter notes. Because we have that half note cut in half, this dot only wants 1 of them. So let's say I don't like this one, I get rid of it. All I'm left with is a single quarter note. The dot now represents a single quarter note, which makes this technically a 2-beat note plus that quarter note, this quarter note, which is, I'm going to redo that, which is 1, redo that, sorry, go back, which is 1, and that equals 3, because 2 beats plus 1 beat equals 3. So this dot makes this half note a 3-beat note. Let me show you one last time. I have a half note, which is worth 2 beats. If I add that dot, then this dot is technically, and it really is, half of this note added to itself. So what's half of this? Well, it's a quarter note. So really, if I remove this arrow and make a little stem here, this dot now becomes a quarter note. So now this is now a 3. And if I make it a little more pretty, then this is now worth 3. So let's do a little bit of some math here. 4 time I need 4 beats in the bar. Each note's a quarter note. Let's say I have a quarter note as the first note. Now, all I have left is 3 beats in this bar because I have the 1. Well, I could put a half note, which is the 2. So there's the 2 and the third beat. And I could put a quarter note. Draw that better. I love when it does that. Which is now the 4th beat. So now I have all 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But what if I only wanted 1 note here and held it even longer? I'd put a dot, which makes this note now an extra beat long. So I have 1st beat, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th beat all inside this 1 note. It is now 3 beats long. Let's take this dot to another note. Let's take a whole note. Add a dot. Well, before, this whole note used to be worth 4 beats, but now it's not anymore. So this dot again, any dot added beside it, takes half of whatever note it is beside. So half of 4 is 2. I'll put that there as a reminder. This note's worth 4. This note is now worth half of this, which is 2. So now 4 plus 2 is 6 beats. Instead of a 4-beat whole note, I now have a 6-beat note. So here we go. Let's fill in the gap. We have a whole note, 4 beats. We have a dotted half note, which is now our 3-beat note. We have a half note, which is 2, and we have a quarter note. Let's fill it in properly, which is now worth still worth actually 1 beat. That's really it. A dot is half of whatever it's attached to. Half of this, so that's 4 beats, is 2 beats. Half of this, that's 2 beat, so this is worth 1 beat. Now, what about the last thing we haven't even talked about yet? What about half of a quarter note? Now you're probably thinking, you're crazy. How can you do that? It's not even a whole number anymore. If this is worth 1 beat, then half of this is now 0.5. So plus, plus, plus. This is now worth 6. This is now worth 3. And this is now worth 1.5 or 1.5 beats. But this half might confuse you if you think of a half note. That's why I just say 1.5, just for clarity. I hope this makes sense. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.